Week 15 of the fantasy baseball season, and he has a few hitters on the rise this week. The first guy is David Fletcher of the Los Angeles Angels. So Fletcher, he's been red hot the last couple weeks here, and his versatility is real good as well. Second, third, shortstop, and outfield here. He qualifies in fantasy baseball, but right now he was a sell-high player this week in my opinion, because I just don't see him keeping up these stats and keeping up this hot streak. So on the season here for Fletcher, 2 home runs, 38 RBIs, 54 runs scored, 5 stolen bases, a .315 batting average, and a .341 on base in the last couple weeks for him. 459 average, 2 homers, 11 RBIs, 5 runs scored, a stolen base, and a .474 on base percentage. So on the season and the last couple weeks, his on base to batting average ratio isn't that great for Fletcher. So right now, I think he's just hitting the ball. He's getting hits early in the count, but I don't just think it's going to last that much. But he's definitely on the rise with his ranking in the last couple weeks, 14th in the last few games here for Fletcher. July 10th at Seattle, 1 for 4. July 11th at Seattle, 4 for 5 with 2 runs, a homer, and 4 RBIs. July 16th versus Seattle, 3 for 5, 2 runs, and a rib. July 17th versus Seattle, 3 for 5 with 5 RBIs. July 18th versus Seattle, 0 for 5. July 19th at Oakland, 2 for 3. And July 20th at Oakland, 1 for 5 with a stolen base. So right here, he's got a few multiple hit games. The last 4 out of 7 games here is Fletcher. And he's definitely on a hot streak. But right now, while he's red hot and rising up, he's definitely a trade and sell high candidate as well this week. But Fletcher's definitely rising up. The next hitter on the rise is Mitch Haniger of the Seattle Mariners. Haniger, another player that I recommended this week, is a sell-high candidate on the season here for Haniger. 23 homers, 59 RBIs, 66 runs scored, a .265 batting average, and a .322 on base. So those are great numbers for Haniger, no doubt about it. And the last couple weeks here, he's been one of the better hitters in all of fantasy baseball, ranked 6th overall in the time. 5 homers, 12 RBIs, 11 runs scored, a .382 batting average, and a .463 on base. So right here, he's almost impossible to get out the last couple weeks here, it seems, for Haniger. But he's another guy that he's not going to hit the baseball for a great average when it's all said and done. I know the power is definitely legit, but that's why I recommended him as a sell-high candidate as well. But he's definitely rising up this week. The last few games for him: July 11th versus the Angels, 1 for 4. July 16th at the Angels, 3 for 5 with a homer, 2 RBIs, and 3 runs scored. July 17th at the Angels, 1 for 3 with a homer and 4 RBIs. July 18th at the Angels, 1 for 3 with 3 runs. July 20th at the Rockies, 1 for 4. And the 21st at the Rockies, 1 for 4 with a homer and an RBI. So right now he's on a home run tear as well here as Haniger this month. And this is why his value is definitely going up, and him playing well with 7 home runs in the month. But there's no way he's going to sustain the .380 batting average like he has in the last couple weeks. But he's rising up this week. The next hit is Paul Goldschmidt of the St. Louis Cardinals. So Goldschmidt, it's been an up and down season for him for the most part, but his totals are pretty decent this season. 16 home runs, 54 RBIs, 52 runs scored, a .271 average, and a .339 on base rate. We're obviously used to Goldschmidt hitting .290 to the 300s with more power, but the last couple weeks for him, he stepped his game up. 4 homers, 7 RBIs, 7 runs scored, a stolen base, a .382 average, and a .447 on base. So that's vintage Goldschmidt over the last couple weeks. And the last couple weeks, he's ranked 18th in fantasy baseball and ranked 95th on the season. So right now, he's hitting the ball well. And this Cardinal team, they've played pretty good baseball, winning 4 out of the last 5 as well, thanks to Goldschmidt as a big factor for this team. So the last few games here for Goldschmidt: June 10th at Chicago, 2 for 3 with a homer and RBI, 2 runs scored. July 16th versus the Giants, 1 for 4 with a homer and an RBI. July 17th versus the Giants, 3 for 4, a homer, 2 RBIs. July 18th versus San Francisco, 1 for 3. July 19th versus the Cubs, 2 for 5 with a homer and 2 RBIs. July 20th versus the Cubs, 1 for 5 with a stolen base. And July 21st, 1 for 5 with a run versus the Cubs. So right here, Goldschmidt, he's gone out there and he's finally producing numbers that fantasy owners want to see. And I think he could have a strong August and September here to finish off the season as a top 50 or even better fantasy player right now. So Goldschmidt, if he could keep this going and keep rising up, he's going to be one of the better fantasy players when the season's all said and done here. And he's definitely on the rise this week. The next hit is Justin Turner of the Los Angeles Dodgers. So Turner, he's been up and down this season. He got off to a hot start, and now he's been hot the last couple weeks here. Is Turner on the season, 17 homers, 55 RBIs, 55 runs scored, a 302 average, and a 390 on base. Very solid numbers on the season, but the last couple weeks for him, 3 homers, 10 RBIs, 6 runs scored, 290 average, and a 361 on base. But over the last month is where he's really got the numbers. Is Turner, 363 average, 441 on base, 5 homers, 17 RBIs, and 12 runs scored here for Justin Turner. So the last couple weeks, he's ranked 41st in fantasy baseball. But the only issue with him now is he's got a banged up knee, and he's day-to-day with the knee injury. And we saw him pinch hit in his last 2 appearances here, is Turner. So the last few games for him, July 11th versus Arizona, 1 for 4 with an RBI. July 16th at the Rockies, 1 for 4 with a run. July 17th at the Rockies, 1 for 5, a run and 2 RBIs. July 18th at the Rockies, 2 for 5, a homer, 2 RBIs. July 19th versus the Giants, 1 for 3 with a homer and an RBI. And like I mentioned, July 20th versus San Francisco, 0 for 2. On the 21st, 0 for 1 versus San Francisco. So right here, he's banged up, but he's definitely a player on the rise. He's got out to a hot start here since the games have returned from the All-Star break. And he's a player that's going to be hot and cold some weeks at his veteran age and all the miles on his body at 36 years old. But right now, Justin Turner is playing good baseball. And as long as his knee injury don't put him on the injured list, he's definitely on the rise this week. And the 5th and final hitter on the rise is Juan Soto of the Washington Nationals. So Soto, he was having a mediocre season in the early going, according to his numbers. But right now, he really caught up his stats and got things going over the last month here on the season. 16 homers, 54 RBIs, 62 runs scored, a 302 average, and a nice 424 on base with 6 stolen bases as well this season. And the last couple weeks, like I mentioned, his numbers are really picking up, and he's already ranked 10th this season in fantasy baseball after getting off to a slow start. 5 homers, 12 RBIs, 12 runs scored, a stolen base, a 444 batting average, and a whopping 574 on base over the last couple weeks. So this national team, they're starting to get hot here, winning 3 out of 4, and obviously Juan Soto's a big factor for this roster here and this team, and is why they're doing it. So the last few games here for Soto, July 11th at the Giants, 1 for 2 with a run. July 16th versus San Diego, 4 for 5 with 2 homers, 4 RBIs. July 17th versus San Diego, 0 for 2 with a run. July 18th versus San Diego, 3 for 4 with a homer, 2 RBIs and 2 runs. July 19th versus Miami, 3 for 4 with 2 homers, 5 RBIs, and 3 runs scored. And July 20th versus Miami, 1 for 3 with an RBI. And July 21st versus Miami, 1 for 3 with a stolen base. So right here, since we returned from the All-Star break, on July 16th, Juan Soto's already got 5 home runs in the time and already 12 RBIs, so he's on a crazy pace. He's the hottest hitter possibly in baseball right now since the games returned last week, and he's definitely a player on the rise this week. So that's a few hitters on the rise here in Week 15 of the fantasy baseball season.